Hi everybody and welcome to episode 65, A Walk in the Woods.
Good morning. Good morning. We're out for a walk. No children.
No children. I think this is the first time we've been on our own outside the house since about the first week of April.
Oh, and before that, I mean, that was obviously the lockdown part of it. But apart from just maybe you and I going for a quick dog walk, a 45-minute job, we've not been outside together alone in possibly 16 years.
So I've decided enough is enough. We're wearing our official hiking rucksacks and we have a cheese sandwich each and an apple.
You've got a flask of tea?
I've got a flask of tea. And for those of you that are local and watching this, we've just come across Dennis Paris Golf Course, because the local footpath cuts along the edge and then through into the woods. And yeah, I wondered if you might like to come with us. Just me and Dave and Jim the dog. Jim! Jim! Dave and I managed to escape out off Barry Island and away from the children and into the wilds of the Vale of Glamorgan on Sunday. So I've recorded bits and pieces of our walk to share with you, and I will intersperse them throughout the podcast. So I hope you enjoyed the little snippets. And if you do like them, let me know, because we're going to try and get into the habit of once a month going out just by ourselves. The kids are old enough now that we can leave them for a couple of hours without worrying too much. Anyway, yeah, my name is Zoe. You can find me everywhere as Pins and Needles UK. That's Ravelry and Instagram, and obviously here on YouTube. Check the drop down box below for details of everything that I talk about, links to the places you can find me, my coffee account, the Dave's Gym account if any of you are interested in that. You can find links to Cartref Yarn, and also the Knit Tea Retreat, and those are businesses that I run with my friend Jenny of Owl About Yarn. So if you're interested in 100% local Welsh yarn, head over to Cartref Yarn and have a look. And the Knit Tea Retreat, our next retreat is taking place in October of this year. It is online. Because of the whole coronavirus, we've had to make it all online, but we do have spaces available for the online workshops and all the rest of it. So if you're interested in learning from Sylvia Watts Cherry, who's doing classes on Intarsia, Mina Phillip, who is teaching pattern hacking, and Carrie Westerman, who is teaching knitting the landscape and a twisted stitches mock cables class. And Matthew Brown, a local Welsh photographer, will be doing an online class on photography for knitters. So I'm hoping I can sneak in and watch that one. Anyway, if you're interested in signing up to any of that, please check the link down below. It will take you to the website, which has got all of the information on it, and there's plenty of wool in the shop. Into finished objects. And I just realised I forgot to put Dave's Christmas socks on the blockers, which I think I've sat on. I have finished the second of Dave's socks, and therefore the pair. I'd had enough of these by the time I was at the foot of the second sock, so I'm very glad to have finished them. 2 finished socks. The colour's not quite as vibrant as that. It's a knit and purl pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. I still haven't written down who designed it, but it's a 4-row repeat stitch pattern. I did a heel flap and gusset, and I did a rounded toe, and I'm really pleased with it. The yarn is Wollemeise twin, so it's is it 80/20? Yes, 80/20 merino nylon in the colourway Bussi, which means kiss, and it comes in 150 gram skein, which gives you 510 yards. My husband has very big feet, and that is how much yarn I had left over, which is a decent chunk, which is good because it's not long until I need to start winding mini skeins to take part in a friend's scrappy advent swap. So I need to start remembering to save all my scraps and start winding a couple of minis off. So there we go, finished socks. Those are all, that's all the finishes I have for you this week. So we can scoot. Well, let's go back to the woods. Shall we go back to the woods? How did we not know about this place before?
No, not really.
We've stopped for lunch, but I can't make the thing tall enough. There you are, look, that's a bit better.
I'm eating my lovingly prepared, slightly sweaty cheese and salad sandwich with onions. It's really good.
Jim is contemplating throwing himself in the river.
He tried that earlier on and got stuck.
Had to heave him out by his collar.
Stupid animal.
And so how many people have we bumped into from work?
Only 2.
Only 2, but with their entire families, which was lovely, but I think we might need to go further afield. It is lovely here. I'll flip you around so you can see. Look, there's a little trickling stream up there.
A little valley. And it's mainly beech trees. So you get this lovely dappled light.
Can you hear that? It's literally nothing except Dave chewing in the little river. And of course Jim the dog. Hey Jim, has he not given you any cheese yet?
No cheese for you.
Jumping ahead to works in progress, I haven't really been working on my Rift Tee. That's a pattern by Jaqueline Cieslak, and I'm knitting it in some Knitcrate yarn, which is, what's in it? It's a cotton, linen and something else blend. And I've got to the point where I had to separate the fronts and backs. And it's been another tiring few weeks. I need to stop saying that. I just need to accept that all my weeks are going to be insane. So yeah, I came to the point where I had to split for the sleeves, and I read the next part of the pattern, and if you remember, it has sections of twisted rib sort of running down the side panels, and there was a bit of, I think in the pattern it calls it an underarm tab. So you knit a few rows back and forth just over those stitches, not short rows, that creates a tab, and then there's a hyperlink in the pattern that you can click to go through to a YouTube video where she shows you what to do with this underarm tab. I'm sure it's a brilliant tutorial. I'm pretty sure I'm capable of doing it. I just couldn't be bothered. So, so I think I knit half a row on it, got to the point where I did those little rows and then abandoned it, and it's just sat judging me over there in my knitting box. So I didn't bother bringing that out to show you. So the main thing I've been working on, well, I've got 3 works in progress, but only one of them is knitting. Having finished Dave's socks, obviously my sock needles were empty, and that's not a good idea. So I've cast on a new pair. I'm keeping them in my Eldenwood Craft bag. I love watching Emma's podcast. She recorded a new podcast recently, which I really enjoyed watching. And she is having a giveaway actually on her Instagram feed at the moment. So if you search for Eldenwood Craft, her most recent post is a beautiful project bag that she's going to do as a giveaway. And she just wants to know what are your essential must-haves for a project bag. Just a bit of market research, but her bags are lovely, so it's well worth chucking your hat in the ring. Anyway, I cast on with a new pair of socks with Opal Adventure yarn in the colourway 9827. And this is one of the skeins of sock yarn that I got from the Yarn and Yarns D-stash. I bought a mystery bag of sock yarn which had 2 balls of yarn in it. One I gave to my mum and the other one I'm knitting up myself. So here's the yarn. It's mostly sort of pinks with flashes of this lovely turquoisey, is that focusing? Aqua colour, there we go. And I'm just doing a plain vanilla sock. And I've done quite well, even if I say so myself. I'm very nearly at the toe, I've gone fuzzy, very nearly at the toe of the first sock. And there you have it. I rather like this. I've got about maybe an inch to go, and then I can start the toe. Oh, there's Jim's bottom again. This is my own pattern. One of the sock patterns that I designed is called the As Requested socks. And when Jenny and I were working the yarn shows around the UK, a lot of people wanted just a plain vanilla sock pattern to get them going. So I wrote one, and there's a pattern in there for knitting socks on double points, and there's another one included for knitting socks on magic loop. But the first half of the pattern explains about sock construction, so that if you follow the instructions in there, you can knit a sock to fit anybody out of any yarn at any gauge. So I explain about the sort of the standard ratios of stitches and what measurements matter and which ones don't. So if you're interested, I've linked, oh, Jim's off. I've linked down below to my Ravelry designer store, and you can find it in there. So As Requested socks. And it is partly because it's quite busy yarn, but I didn't want to do these on magic loop, which I normally do for stocking stitch socks because I get ladders, but actually you can't really see them. So whether it's the super busy yarn or whether I'm just getting a bit better at it, I don't know. But it means that they're zipping along really nicely because there's none of the argy-bargy, push me, pull you business of magic loop. And I've needed some simple knitting. My other work in progress, lost the sock label. That's my only knitting work in progress. I don't know if you watch Ellie of the Craft House Magic podcast, but if you don't, you really ought to. It was my mum that first told me about Ellie's podcast, and I've been watching her for a while now. And not only is she just very lovely, I met her for the first time in real life up at the Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year, I think. But her podcast is tons of fun because she does so many different crafts. So there's knitting and crochet. She does quite a lot of dressmaking, which I've been really enjoying. And she quite often sews up newly released patterns, so that's quite nice. And she also does bobbin lace and embroidery. And she's inspired me to get back to my embroidery work in progress. Now this is a kit from a company called Oh So Beautiful, and I've left a link to the website down below. And 2018, I think, they ran a competition, a giveaway, and both Jenny and I entered, and the prize was that you could choose 3 free kits, and Jenny was picked as the winner, and she very kindly let me choose a kit and let Jocelyn choose a kit. So I made a start a couple of years ago and I never finished it. But yes, seeing Ellie's lovely progress, although she's doing cross stitch mostly at the moment, but I thought I was inspired to get it back out because it is a Christmas one and it would be nice if I could have it finished for this Christmas. So I blew the dust off this, and this is how far I've got. So these big flowers here, I did those the last time I was at this. So although I was up for getting back to the embroidery, I didn't want to leap straight back into satin stitch. I thought I'd just get my eye in again. So these darker bits here is what I've been working on. So there's some straight stitch, as you can see, and I think these bits here were split stitch, which I haven't done before. And I've just been doing the teeny weeny bits, like these tiny little fronds here and the little berry stalks down here. Those are just in straight back stitch. And Ellie was talking about how in order to get back into the habit of working on her cross stitch, she'd do it first thing in the morning, just a quiet 20 minutes when the light was good and she was, looking for a bit of a peaceful start. And I'm an early riser. I'm usually up by 6:30 at the latest. And I thought, well, maybe that's a good practice to start with. So yeah, I've been working on that and really enjoying it. The kit itself, well, all of her kits are really, really well produced. So everyone gets a sheet of how to get started and how to finish the frame nicely when you've finished. You get a nice diagram that tells you which parts of the embroidery are which stitches, and then this is the one I'm doing, but there is a similar one without the word in the middle. And then you get a stitch guide. This is the Winter Floral Wreath. There we go. And she gives you some close-ups and some nice instructions on the back. I did also look a few things up on YouTube. I found somewhere that to have nice clean edges on something when you do satin stitch, it's a good idea to back stitch around the outline of the shape first and then fill it in. And I found that made a real difference. And if I can show you without tipping everything out, you also get all of the embroidery floss that you needed, 2 little needles on a bit of felt, and some thread for tightening up the back when you finished it. The little bobbins, sort of embroidery silk bobbins, were something that I had anyway, and it's just, they come in these twists, and then it's tidier to keep them wound onto these bobbins. What's the brand of silks? Duchess, it says. So yeah, there you go. When I was doing this the first time round, I didn't think that the needles that came with the kit were very nice to use. I'm assuming that they're fairly cheap and she buys them in bulk. And I found that the eye of the needles weren't completely open. They were sort of had little burrs of metal on them. So when I went to, again, the Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year, I nipped over to see Grace, who is the lady that runs beyondmeasure.co.uk, and she sells the most beautiful, unusual haberdashery items, and she also sells tulip Hiroshima needles. And I'd previously treated myself to some just normal hand sewing needles for use when I sew, but she had these embroidery needles. There we go. They're a Japanese brand, and they come in this little sort of plastic tube with a cork, and you can see the needles in there. And so it's assorted embroidery needles, numbers 3, 4, 5 and 6. And they're much nicer to use. The thread goes through the eye absolutely fine, and they're much smoother through the fabric. And when I dug them out, I hadn't used them. I bought them in March last year, and I only started using them, it's not going to come out now, just this last week. I realised there's a bit of an information leaflet in here, which is quite interesting actually. And there's a little diagram showing that they polished the needles lengthways. These grooves are actually in the body of the needle, so that when you're doing your embroidery and pushing the needle through the fabric, it makes for a much smoother process. I don't know if that's particular to tulip needles or completely standard and you're all laughing at me. But this is really the first embroidery I've ever done. I've done bits of cross stitch here and there over the years, but never embroidery. So I thought, well, if I enjoy finishing off this kit and I actually complete it in time, maybe I'd put a different embroidery kit on my Christmas list. And if I'm very good, maybe Father Christmas will buy me another kit. Next up, I have some more spinning to share. So I'm still working on my Owl About Yarn Polworth braid. So I had 100 grams of Polworth fibre from Jenny's shop, and this is the exclusive summer knit tea retreat colourway called Knitting with Friends. You can just see my Ashford traditional behind me here. That's what I spin on. She's about the same age as me actually. I think she's 1979, 1980, and I'm 1979, so we're both a bit creaky, but that's okay. And I'm spinning a 3-ply. I've never spun a true 3-ply before. I've only ever done chain ply, but I'm trying to push myself a little bit with my spinning to try something different. It seems that all spinners eventually end up with a default yarn, something that they just do automatically. And I seem to spin to a fine enough singles that I can do a chain ply and end up with a fingering weight yarn. But I was aiming for DK with this. I think I'm spinning a little bit too fine, but I reckon by the time I've plied it, I'll probably end up with a sport weight. It depends how much it poofs when it hits water. So along with my quiet morning embroidery first thing, I've been trying to do some spinning at the same time. The Tour de France is riding at the moment. They started on Saturday just gone, and today is Bank Holiday Monday the 31st of August. And the Tour de Fleece, the spinning competition, usually runs alongside the Tour de France. But the Tour de Fleece took place when the Tour de France should have started earlier in the summer. And although the cyclists are riding again now, the spinners are having a sort of an unofficial continuation of the Tour de Fleece. So that's what gave me the nudge to get back to my wheel. I've got one more singles to do. I haven't even started it. and hopefully I can get that done. So my challenge for this spin, if you remember my previous spin, I did the Hilltop Cloud Fibre. For that, my new technique was using a control card to maintain my singles consistency. And for this time I wanted to again work on consistency but try for a true 3-ply. I don't know what my next spin will be, but I think probably what I'll do is pick a new technique to try and see how I get on with that. So yeah, my early mornings when I'm not on shift, usually there's sort of 15 to 20 minutes of embroidery and 10 to 15 minutes of spinning, just to keep me humming along. And you can get quite a lot done in not very much time. I think it's just little and often, isn't it? The only thing I was thinking, I've only got 4 bobbins, so I'll end up with a singles on each and then only one empty bobbin to ply it all onto, and I don't know if I'll have enough space. I think what I will do is I will draw round this larger end of the bobbin. You have one larger end and one smaller end on a bit of cardboard, and I'll cut myself out a cardboard circle. And if you tuck that cardboard circle around the inside of the smaller end, you end up with a bigger bit at the end and you can pack a bit more on. Ideally, I'd like to get the whole 100 grams plied onto one bobbin, but I don't know if it will fit. And I think this yarn is destined to be fingerless gloves for Jocelyn, because she asked me very nicely. So I said yes. Finally, acquisitions. I don't have a huge amount. First of all, I was sent some yarn by my friend Ruth. Ruth is currently moving house and desperately trying to clear out a lot of stuff, and that included going through her stash. And she very kindly sent me a skein and a leftover of the Fibre Company Arranmore Donegal Heritage, which is an Aran weight yarn. It's a tweedy blend of fine merino wool, cashmere and silk. And this is 100 grams of Aran weight yarn, 160 metres, 175 yards, in the colourway Finian. There we go, so there's the label. It's an Irish yarn, and isn't that gorgeous? That's pretty much true to colour, actually. Really enjoy it. So I'm assuming that the silk and the cashmere content is what produces these neps. I'm assuming the main body of the wool is the merino. But I absolutely love this yarn. It feels super soft. I really like it. And maybe I can get a matching hat and mitts or cowl or something like that. So thank you very much, Ruth. Much appreciated. And then my last stash enhancement, I bought some Rowan yarn. I was over at Angela's yarn shop, which has now sadly closed. And I think I mentioned her destash Instagram account last time. And I treated myself to some balls of Rowan Softyak DK. I bought 6 of this green colourway, which is shade 00240, and 2 of this colour, which is 00248. And it is 76% cotton, 15% yak, and 9% nylon. So there's the colours. I bought 6 of the green and 2 of this colour, which it sort of looks silvery grey, but if you get closer, it's actually grey with a very, very pale blue-green to it. And I thought I could use these together and maybe do sort of an autumn sweater if it's got the cotton in it. The alternative is there's a pattern by PetiteKnit called Summer Shirt. Did I write it down? Summer Shirt by PetiteKnit, which is available on Ravelry, and it's a top-down raglan. My chest buttons are straining. And it's a ribbed yoke, short sleeves. And I've got enough yarn of just the green to do it, so I thought that might be nice for autumn. That pattern only goes up to a bust size 51¼ inches, so could do with being a bit more size inclusive, but it would fit me. And then I'd have my 2 balls of this left over for something else. So those are all my acquisitions. What have I been up to for my chatty closing comments? If you can see here, I've just got some lovely flowers in shot. There's some orange gerberas there as well. Can you see them? And some marguerites as well. And as I mentioned, my local yarn shop, Yarn and Yarns, has now sadly closed, which is a great shame, but they are going online. So Yarn and Yarns will live again. And Jenny and I have been over helping Angela sort stock out and move things around. A bit of girl power has been handy there. And these flowers were a thank you gift from Angela for helping her out, which is very kind. So they've been brightening up my living room, and I thought you might like to enjoy them too. What else have I been up to? Conrad goes back to school next week. He's my eldest. He's starting his A-levels, and he goes back this week. Goes back Thursday of this week. The other 2 don't go back till the week after. So there's been a flurry of back to school shopping. I crammed everyone into my Polo and rattled down the motorway to a big, you've got like a big, I don't know what you call it, a big shopping centre off the motorway, but it's full of branded shops that sell discount things. So like there's a Helly Hansen outdoor clothing shop and it's all their branded goods, but it's cheaper. I think it's like last year's styles or something like that, but they have a really good shoe shop. So I went and bought new shoes for everybody and school shirts from the Marks and Spencer's outlet shopping centre. That's what I'm looking for. And the really good thing about it is that there's also a Cadbury's outlet shop there. So yeah, Cadbury's chocolate, and they do big bags of mixed seconds chocolates. So like the sort of things you get in Quality Street, but not in wrappers and all in a jumble in a bag. And big things of Toblerone and sort of packs of chocolate bars and things, all at super cheap. So the deal is, if everyone's good, they can have some chocolate from the Cadbury shop on the way home. I don't react well to chocolate. I'll spare you the details. So I didn't get any. I just had a little nibble of one of the kids' bits of Toblerone, and that was plenty for me. So we've been doing that. The gym has been nice and busy. We reopened on the 10th of August. So we've been open about 2 and a bit weeks. It's nice and busy. Well, I'm super busy. I've picked up some new clients, which is good. So nice to get back into personal training. It is still a lot though, with all the extra COVID-19 cleaning, which I'm very happy to do. It does mean I've got a lot less time for all the other side of things, because as well as working reception and the cleaning and personal training clients, I have all the paperwork and admin, and I'm getting get myself in a bit of a flap about trying to fit everything in, particularly while the kids are still at home. And yeah, I'm about to lose my mind. I need the kids to go back to school, and I need to get back into the habit of planning what I'm going to be doing and writing it in my journal and sticking to it, because otherwise it's firefighting. You just, what's on fire in front of me and what do I need to do? So yeah, I need to start sewing name tapes in school uniform, get all my children out of the house, and then I can have a big think and sort out what I'm doing. I did make a bit of a start on that when lockdown happened. It was the 20th of March that we had to close the gym, and we turned my dining room into a home gym, partly so that we could train ourselves, and also so we could film things for the Dave's Gym channel, which I know some of you have been watching. So we turned the dining room into a home gym. We put the dining room table in the back room, so the kids would have somewhere to do their schoolwork and I would still have somewhere to do gym stuff, which meant that my sewing table got dismantled and put upstairs in the spare room, along with a lot of other stuff. And now that lockdown has started to ease a little bit in Wales, we're allowed to have a bubble. And the first new person into my bubble was, of course, my mum and my dad. And I thought I'd like them to come and stay, but I can't fit them into the spare room anymore because my sewing table got completely dismantled and piled on the bed, along with a lot of other stuff that we crammed in there. So in order to get my mum and dad to come down and stay, I had to get the sewing table back in the back room. But in order to do that, I had to get the dining room table out of the back room into the dining room. But in order to do that, I had to pack up all the gym stuff and take it to work. So yeah, last weekend I dismantled the gym, put the dining room table back in there and reassembled the sewing table. And then this week I've been sorting out the back room so that that's now a usable space again. Taking all the stuff that was in the home gym back to work as we were going in for shifts. And I think this coming week I can now sort out the remainder of the spare room so that there's actually a bed for my parents to sleep on. But it'll be worth it to have them to come down and stay. They've expanded the bubbles again in Wales, so you can make a bubble with up to 4 people, which means that finally Jenny and I can work together in the same room. It's been so hard organisationally trying to run Cartref Yarn and the Knit Tea Retreat together, but all over video conferencing, and I don't need to tell you how hard that is. I'm sure you've had your own struggles with it. But it's also been emotionally difficult because just not seeing her properly and not having time together. And we've sort of sat in the back garden 10 foot away from each other and yelled a bit. And we had meetings in our cars where we'd shriek at each other across a car park at the start. But it's not the same. So on Wednesday, finally, we were allowed to sit next to each other again at my dining room table and get some work done. And I can't tell you how lovely it was to be able to give her a cutch. So things are looking up, I think. I know it's not gone and things aren't normal, but there's just enough relaxation to feel that life doesn't need to be so hard and so frightening anymore. And I'm really enjoying that. Anyway, that's all I've got to share with you today. I will leave you with the last little bit of a woodland walk. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will be back in another couple of weeks, probably with some new cast-ons. So I hope you're all getting some making time in. Do look after yourselves. Leave me a comment down below. Come and find me over on Instagram, and I will see you soon. Bye.